Ever thought about starting a YouTube channel as an instructional designer? Want to know what it's really like and why I started with this hard AF platform? Well, friends, in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through my entire journey of how I got started in YouTube. Hey friends, my name is Vanessa Alzate, the founder and CEO of Anchored Training, and on this channel, we help aspiring instructional designers and e-learning developers just like you get off of the sidelines and get into the L&D game. So let's talk all about why I started with YouTube. As you all know, we've been talking a lot about branding and marketing, and the big reason why I wanted to start with YouTube is because I wanted to build that brand awareness. I knew that YouTube was a hot platform. It's very searchable on Google. People go to YouTube to search for things. It would build like no one trusts much faster than a podcast or a blog could ever do for me. And as someone that wasn't very active on social media in the instructional design space before 2020, I wanted to be able to build that trust pretty quickly. I had a growing business that I wanted to grow even further, and YouTube was going to be the way that I could do that. It also felt really natural for me. So you might not have heard of this before, and I definitely recommend taking it. So there is this thing called a Kolbe A assessment, and it really helps to give you that kind of insight into what your natural tendencies are. And for me, I am a quick start. And I can just like at the drop of a hat come up with new ideas. Like I have all these business plans and all these businesses I want to build. And my team is always like, Vanessa, please stop. You are going like all these places and we have not even finished this idea that you had. But for me, part of that natural inclination is just being able to talk. And I always tell my team, if you have a question for me or you need something from me, don't wait for me to like write it down in an email. It is much faster for me to like turn on a camera, go down Zoom, turn on Loom and talk you through your question than it is to actually for me to get there and like write it out. And so knowing that about me, it felt YouTube was very natural because I could just kind of with minimal prep, get on camera and start talking. I'm someone that doesn't have to do a ton of prepping before a speaking engagement or things like that. I come up with an outline, I know where I'm going, and a lot of it, honestly, kind of just comes to me as I'm speaking. And sometimes I'll go off on tangents that don't make sense. And then sometimes I go on these tangents that I'm like, damn, that was good. I didn't even know you were going to go there. So for me, that's why I started with YouTube. It felt a lot easier and more natural for me. And honestly, YouTube was something that I used often. Like when I get ready, I'm watching YouTube. When I'm doing anything, like I'm on the treadmill, I'm watching YouTube. If I'm not watching Housewives or last week's This Is Us. But for me, YouTube was like my go-to place if I had questions. So I wanted to be that person for instructional design. Because I wasn't really one that was out there on social media and I was just busy working, I didn't have a ton, really any speaking experience. So being able to be on YouTube challenged me and helped to build that speaking experience and challenged me to get my point across in a very short amount of time. So I try not to let my videos go longer than 15 to 20 minutes. Because I do this every single week, I'm really becoming more comfortable talking in front of a camera or talking to others because of this YouTube experience. So it felt for me like YouTube was going to be a no-brainer. I also knew that there wasn't a ton of people in instructional design on YouTube, which for me felt like a blue ocean. So blue ocean, red ocean. Blue ocean is an ocean in which are not a ton of competition. You're really a differentiator in that area. Red ocean means there's a ton of competition and there is a lot of people doing the same thing as you. In the instructional design YouTube space, there is not a ton. And really not a ton of people with my voice, right? And I mean, I have my own voice, my own way of looking at things. And so I said, why wouldn't I throw my hat into the ring in instructional design YouTube, right? So those are all the things that I thought about when I decided to make that leap into YouTube. If you know that you're ready to get started into YouTube, here are some things to help you get set up. When I got started on YouTube, I started very simply. It was literally my iPhone and a stack of books as my tripod. And here's a spoiler alert. I just did a brand shoot today. So we did some photos in my YouTube setup, so you really get to see the behind the scenes. It's not that glamorous. I am currently using books and a popcorn bucket as my tripod. I have my tripod literally sitting right here. There's a few things and a few reasons why I'm still using books and a tripod. Partly laziness, and because it's all set up perfectly and I don't have time to go do all those things. That is what I started with. Honestly, phone and a bunch of books. I also started my channel with an editor. So I had a VA at the time, and I said, you know what, I really want to start doing YouTube and talk through all the whole spiel. And I said, do you know anybody that does YouTube editing? And I found Russell, and he was with me for over a year, really helped to build up my channel. We had really great vibes. Honestly, he was such a great editor that like I didn't even have to communicate a ton with him, and he just like went off and like he like knew my style down pat. So that might not be something that everyone can do, but honestly, editing a video is really great experience for someone that wants to get in the e-learning space. If you have a tool like Camtasia, you can very easily edit your own videos and get them up on YouTube. One of the things I just recently talked about is the reason that TikTok is kind of overtaking YouTube is because people don't need the high production value, right? They don't need the lights and the this and the that. What is really cool about TikTok is that you see people like in their homes, you know what I mean? It doesn't look perfect and like high produced. I know that many of us feel like in order to get onto YouTube, we have to have that high production, that backdrop, that this and that. Don't worry about having all of that. All you really need is like a plain background, you know, you don't even need anything behind you, and your phone. Just get started simply and get onto a tool like Camtasia to help edit your videos. It makes it very simple and very easy. Camtasia is not super expensive, and you're probably gonna need it anyway as an instructional designer. Once you decide that YouTube is also your space, what you really want to hone in on is who you are, what it is that you're talking about, and who it is that you serve. It makes it a lot more simple to figure out what your content is going to be about each week if you know who it is that you're servicing. It also makes content creation like this. Like I can come up with questions because I know exactly who it is that I'm speaking to. And some people that will come up on your videos might not feel like you're their vibes because you know what? They're probably not your ideal client and you're not speaking to them. But when you do find those that are like part of your community, that they're your ideal client, they will know and they will say to you like, it felt like you were talking right to me. And it makes it just so simple. And it makes you someone that's bingeable and someone that they want to continue to watch. So really understanding who that persona is that you're speaking to is critical when you're starting a YouTube channel. And if you have any questions about how I come up with content, I want you to check out my video on how I create content that I posted last week. That gives you all the tips and the tricks of how I started off creating content. That will definitely be a lovely supplement to this video here. So I definitely recommend that you like watching YouTube strategists and watching videos about building your camera presence and things like that if it's something that you feel like you need help with. Another tip that I take when I come on camera is I literally feel like someone else comes over me. Like I'm Sasha Fierce, like I'm Beyonce, and I just am animated. And you know what? Not everyone's gonna like me and not everyone's gonna fit my vibes, and people might make fun of me that watch my videos, but you know what? I don't know about it. I don't really care about it. It's not for them. Having that same idea and that thought process makes it a lot easier for you to speak to the camera. The other tip I have, if you're going to start a channel, is to make your camera your friend. So use your camera and make it feel like you're speaking to a friend. So sometimes my husband will watch like my outtakes and things like that, and he'll say, who are you talking to? And I just like let my camera make it feel like my camera is my editor. So now it's Katie, and it's like, I feel like I'm just having a conversation with Katie and walking her through what I thought about when I was starting a YouTube channel as an instructional designer. Makes it a lot easier. When you speak to your camera like you're speaking to a friend, your natural personality comes out, and it just makes you feel a lot less awkward. So you might be asking yourself at this point, Vanessa, did you have any training in YouTubing? And the answer is not in the beginning. In the beginning, I just threw on my camera and I did watch a few videos about YouTube, but not necessarily like how to film YouTube, more around like the strategy behind like content planning and like intros and things like that. Then I did actually take Trina Little, she's my YouTube strategist. I took her course, Video Strategy Academy, and really dove more into the strategy part of it. And eventually I just worked with her like a VIP one-on-one situation in which she helped me with my YouTube strategy for the beginning of 2022. That is not needed, okay? So do not feel that you need to have any sort of YouTube training in order to start this. watch a few videos from people who specialize in YouTube, but don't feel like you have to like get into the weeds of doing a training or getting a speaking coach or anything like that. If you start creating videos and you want to make improvements over time, and that's a goal to like do a VIP day with someone who does YouTube or do a training with someone who's a speaking coach. I also have a speaking coach, Jessica Razdell, that I worked with. That was like a goal for last year. I worked with her directly, not necessarily for YouTube, but actual onstage presentations or virtual presentations. But a lot of that does translate here. But I made that a goal that I saved up for. So definitely do not worry about having training beforehand. It is definitely not necessary. And again, people love relatability on YouTube. So the more production value you put into it, like great, but also they don't need all of those things. They want to see the real you and get to know you. So over time, you might be asking yourself, like, what kind of upgrades have you done? So I did upgrade my camera pretty quickly. I would say after about 3 months, I really loved it and realized like this is something I wanted to do and I wanted to put more into my videos. So I upgraded to the Sony ZV-1 camera. It's a recommendation from my YouTube editor. He's like, it's amazing. It's awesome. Great for vlogging and things like that. And I love it. It is light, easy to travel with, small, takes great photos. I actually get really nice photos of like the kids and stuff like that for holidays. And it's very simple to set up. And I need simple in my life. So over time, you might want to set some money aside to upgrade your camera. For my camera, for the camera and like the vlogging stick, it was $1,000. So something to think about if you want to save for a camera in the future. You might also be asking yourself, do you pay attention, Vanessa, to analytics? And quite frankly, I don't. And the reason being is that I'm not in it to like become this like crazy influencer YouTuber. I'm just in it for, getting our brand name out there, sharing more of our story, and really helping build a community. So the numbers like don't matter in a sense that to me, like I don't sit down and I really think about like, what is going to gain me more subscribers, or that video didn't work and it's because I did this in the video, or I lost all of my, this percentage of people at this minute of the video. Like I don't look into all of that. I do look at my analytics every month. My marketing person puts them together just to let me know like what's going on. But to be honest, like I don't deep dive into the analytics because quite frankly, it's not necessary. Unless you're starting to like want to build this crazy YouTube, career, then yes, of course, pay attention to the analytics. But when you're starting out, you just want to get comfortable creating content, speaking your truth, getting comfortable on camera. So just focus on that and don't focus so much on the analytics. The numbers come later. And then just as I wrap up some changes that I've made. So I will say I felt like for quite some time, it was hard for me to figure out what audience was I speaking to. I think I generally speak to two audiences. One, my anchor training clients, and then two, instructional designers just like you. So I really had to think about like how I was going to streamline and stop confusing my audience and really stop confusing myself and my marketing team. And that's when we decided to form the Anchor Training YouTube channel and really dive into creating content specific for our clients there. The other beauty of us doing that is that I'm able to introduce other team members. So you really understand that Anchor Training is not just me. There's a whole team that works there. So Rachel Shell, our Director of Learning Experience Design, she's on there and she's creating content all about learning and like our philosophy behind learning and things like that. And that channel is really for our clients. Here, I'm really focused on business and entrepreneurship and instructional design for instructional designers. And it really does help to clarify my messaging. So that's definitely a huge change that we made. And it has honestly just been amazing for me. Brought me a lot of clarity and a lot less stress in my life. And honestly, as much as I felt like I was confusing others, I was confusing myself. Before you run out and start blogging a day in the life of an instructional designer for your YouTube channel, I want you to stop and I want you to watch this video all about marketing yourself as an instructional designer and whether or not branding is critical. And if you're someone that's looking to build your dream ID brand, my team is doing brand audits. We are really excited to be helping you build your dream brand. My team will work with you to identify your brand vibes, your brand aesthetics, and also help you with your brand content calendar and give you a guideline for what you should be posting that fits within your content pillars. If you're interested in learning more about that, click the link down below and it will take you to the information all about our brand audit. Friends, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in our next video. Bye.